Hi all, Natalie here. Only One United. I'm here with Tanu and Rich. We're going to talk about the game. We're going to talk about Rich's interview with Martin. Views on Mark, have they changed? We're going to talk about the Glazers have finally admitted they're going to sell. And what does that mean? Everyone, I think, knows what that could mean for the men's side, but what does it mean for the women's side? And sort of Polly has been doing the rounds just before. Polly Bancroft, our new head of women's football, is doing some interviews, and we'll just talk about them and what it might mean now that the Glazers are selling, hopefully. And then obviously, just talk about where we could be. Vicky, Karen, Harry, guys, get in the comments, join in, tell us what you think. I'm going to come to some of my guests. Atanu, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Nat. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
How are
Happy
you?
after that amazing win.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, Rich, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Back again.
Back again. Yeah, I think I wanted to get you on because obviously you did the Martin piece, and I think you wanted to talk about it. So we are definitely going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the manager. We're going to talk first though about this. I did not expect to win that. I think I even text you, Rich, at 80th minute or whatever. Typical Man United. They're throwing it away again. I've been listening to a lot of WSL podcasts that have sort of said that sort of said, there's a Rusha Littlejohn who sort of said she didn't expect Man United to come back the way they did. I definitely didn't. I don't think there was anyone in that away end. Yeah, we were pushing because we always sing. We always sort of will fight to the end. I think the away end did really help. And I suppose, Atani, I want to come to you about sort of what it looked like, what you think. But yeah, I didn't expect that. Did you expect it, Atanu, the way they came back and then won it? And then I think when it went 2-2, I thought, yeah, we're going to win now. But at 2-1, I thought, here we go again, same old.
Yeah, and the thing about that 2-1 was that we were leading 1-0 at the half time, and then straight minutes after the second half started, we conceded, and that's been the case this season a lot. That after half time, we tend to fumble a lot, even though we haven't conceded that much in the grand scheme of things, but we still see that we fumble a lot, and there's this mentality shift from the first half into the second half. But yeah, I agree that after we went 2-2, the scenes after when Millie Turner scored that equalizer, the away end was like something you would have wanted to be there, because it was really amazing to see how loud and how passionate you guys were over there. And when Alessia Russo scored that stoppage time goal, that's the United heritage, I think. Come back in the stoppages time. But yes, I think even it for me it as well, it was quite surprising to see that we've come back from 2-1 to 3-2.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Rich, I'm seeing people saying, the neutrals loved it. I'm gonna go that you're a neutral, or are you United fan? I mean, what were you thinking? Kartik saying we're so good at set plays, and yeah, Karen saying we didn't sit back, we went for the win. Definitely at 2-2, and definitely the fans believed it more at 2-2. But at 2-1, like I said, I even messaged you and said it, and I was getting messages from other journalists who were watching and sort of saying, this is the mentality. This is what we keep saying. The mentality is not there. So obviously, what do you think? Just I suppose watching, I'm going to say you're a neutral, and the fact that we've come back now like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said to you at the time, I didn't think it was a mentality. I think Man United have had a mentality problem in certain games. I didn't think it was on Saturday, if I'm being honest. I think first half they were excellent. Like, they were by far the better team. I thought particularly out wide in transition. I thought Leah Galton and Nikita Paris were very, very good. Alessia held the ball up really well, and I don't think Arsenal barely had a shot, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, after half time, like, I think it was just an error. Like, someone should have stepped out. I think always a defender has to step out in that situation, get a little bit unlucky with the deflection. But after that, like, momentum shifts. I don't think that's down to mentality. I think it's just down to, you know what it's like in football. and Arsenal are a very good team. Like they were never going to play as badly in the first half as they did the second. And I think again the second goal was probably a little bit of an error from Garcia. She'd just come on and lost a marker at the back post, and then it's probably a bit of a nothing to lose. And you're right, nobody probably did expect them to come from behind. You might think, okay, we might get a draw. You might get a 2-2. I was actually more interested in the reaction at 2-2 because it would have been very easy to get back to 2-2 at the Emirates and go, okay, we're done. We're going to take the point and try and see it out from here. And that was the biggest shift for me. They really went for it and obviously got the third goal. And like Arsenal will be disappointed. Like Arsenal will be sat back going, is this a mentality problem for us? They'll be going, we didn't defend set pieces, which they didn't. And obviously when you've got Katie Zellum, and then the aerial threat of people like Millie Turner, like Russo, it's a problem. But for United, it's huge. I said it at the time because it's that first big league result, and it's in circumstances where you were dead and buried with 5 minutes to go. So like it's huge in terms of the league table, huge in terms of Champions League prospects, etc. But mentally, it will be a big stumbling block. But I don't think if they'd lost, you could have put it just on a weak mentality. I think in the past there's been games you could do. I personally didn't feel that Saturday was one of them.
I mean, Atana coming at every time, but I'm with Vicky on this. When their goal was deflected, that's just what you thought. You thought, here we go. This is what happens. This is what United do. And it's maybe not mentality, but it's like, this is what we do. How well we played, and this is what we do. We talked about it the first half, how well we played. I mean, we can bring in now this XG thing because for me, I don't know if people have seen, but Ian Wright, he said we should have been 2-3 up in the first half. And I think games like Chelsea, like City, like Arsenal, if you then go into Europe, you're going to face harder teams than them. You need to basically, when you are that dominant 45 minutes, when everything is going your way, I think, I wouldn't say criminal, but it's sort of, you can't just score one goal. You've got to have that, for me, I think, a little cushion. People always say 2-0 is the worst scoreline, but for me, if we were 2-0 up going into half time, maybe even 3, it would have been a lot more comfortable. I mean, Tana, what do you think? Are we scoring enough goals from open play?
Yeah, if you take into consideration that Alessia Russo was sidelined for a few games this season, and in between. So if we look at it from that perspective, I think we've done quite well because we haven't been dependent on only Alessia Russo or Ella Toon. So many players have scored so many goals, but in the I honestly don't think that it's a great concern until and unless I was shown on Twitter that okay, like our XG from open play is only 5 point something, when in reality we have scored 12. So as long as you're scoring, you're outperforming your XG. It doesn't matter because I think at the end of the day, all that matters is you're winning games, and that's what we are doing. But if Alessia Russo isn't playing and our XG drops, XG as in the open play XG, which does not include corners, free kicks, throw-ins. So I think we need someone who can replace her because in football and with United especially, we don't know when we'll get injury concerns because most of our injury crisis is towards the second half of the season, and that's not the case with United only. There are many other clubs that are seeing their players getting injured. So that one alternative right now for Alessia Russo, that like replacement isn't there. But I was reading Rich's interview with Martin Ho, and he said that we need to add this unpredictability in the team. So if we are bringing an example XY player instead of Alessia Russo, then it shouldn't be too predictable that okay, now the focal point of the team is XY only. So for that respect, I think it's fine if we are overperforming our XG, but this is something that we need to be cautiously concerned about. I'm not saying let's make a big issue of it, but yes, this is something that I think should be looked at in the January window. I'm not saying sign someone, but look at how you might have to make any changes in the event that Alessia Russo doesn't sign that contract.
What do you think, Rich? Obviously, because we scored the 2 set-piece goals. We scored 1 from open play. Yeah, it is what it is. 3 goals going in net. No one really cares. But do you think we need to be more dangerous from set open play, especially when we're on top? Maybe against your Leicesters and all this, it doesn't matter as much. But even Leicester game, I look at it, it was a goal from a set piece. And, someone's saying something, Katie Zellem is fantastic at a set piece. And that's fine. But, one day a defence will defend well against them. I feel like Chelsea defended well against them. And then there wasn't really much else. So what do you think, sort of watching it? Obviously, people might say, "Oh, you're finding a negative in positives," but it's not, because, like Tanu says, like I've seen people say, XG, you can't always outperform it. It will eventually, taper off. So, what's your thoughts on that kind of viewpoint, Rich?
I think just from that one game, particularly, I haven't watched United live a huge amount this season. I've seen little bits in highlights and things like that. That was the first game I think I've watched the full 90 minutes. I thought, like I said before, they got into really good positions, like out wide, particularly Leah in the first half. And Zinsberger made a couple of good saves, and sometimes that happens. You'll have one game you might get 6 chances, score 6 goals. You might have another game you get 15 chances and you score 1. And I think that they've still got to find that absolute way of attacking. I think with Alessia as your number 9, she's very good at coming deep and linking up because she's very strong. She can hold the ball up, and you saw that a lot where she's come deep, she's taken the ball down, and then she's played in others, but then there's no one in the box because she's the number 9. So I think there's all those little things. I think the positive was obviously, again, what Atanu mentioned there in terms of what Martin said in our interview, was to have different options. And maybe last season they wouldn't have had the options to make changes in that game when they needed to, and obviously they brought on Lucia Garcia, who had a chance towards the end. Zinsberger made a really good save. They brought on Martha Thomas, who set that chance up. She also had a really good chance, which led to the corner that I think was the third goal. And obviously Paris has come in and scored a few goals. She works hard. She's lively. I thought she was decent on Saturday. Again, a bit wasteful, but decent. Obviously Russo being back, you've got 2, and obviously scored. So there's a lot of options. There's definitely a lot more options. Obviously Leon, wasn't even on the bench, so she's another option in terms of attacking, and that's the big thing. And we talk about mentality, and maybe it was partly of that, but it was part that you had players to bring on that could influence the game. And obviously it was Millie and Alessia that scored the goals, but Lucia played a part, and Martha played a part. So last year you wouldn't have had that. You wouldn't have had those options maybe to bring different players off the bench. Obviously, when Leah Galton was really struggling and had to go off because she'd run herself into the ground both offensively and defensively. So it's all those little things that add up, year on year, as you start to sort of move forward a little bit more, that eventually lead to these results. Because realistically, last year, you'd probably just lost that game 2-1, which was the situation. Man United came close in games like that. They'd lose by a goal or they'd lose by 2 goals, and people said, "Oh, it's mentality," or "We don't have enough depth." And now people are turning around saying they do have the mentality and they do have more depth. So it shows a work in progress. It's obviously not going to work every week. It didn't work against Chelsea, but I think it was expected goals and things like that. I know people talk about it. I'm not huge on it myself. That's not to discredit it. At the end of the day, you went to Arsenal and you put the ball in the back of the net 3 times. There's not many teams that do that. So I think you can only look at it really as a really positive day for Man United, and it is one that, and I'm sure it will get discussed, that they have to build on because they've got tough games coming up as well.
No, definitely. And listen, this isn't about saying, "Oh, no one had a good time." Trust me, my voice still hurts from that. And I suppose, Rich, I just want to touch on something. And Atano, I know you mentioned it, the away end. And I was interviewed by Flo Lloyd Hughes for the Athletic, and she's done an article, and I've heard other podcasts, and they're saying we need this kind of thing. And I think, Rich, in 2018, and a lot of people are saying it, that it's United fans that have pushed this, but it's something we discussed, didn't we, like personally, and we've been on podcasts before and discussed it, and I've had different kind of fans, and I'm hearing people who are still resistant, but some who are basically angry when they turn up to a ground and they've got, you know, a United fan sitting next to them. Why would you want that? You know, but obviously there's that old mentality, you know, that old kind of heads that do still want that. And I think now it's about that choice, isn't it? I feel like there's some clubs that are more resistant to it, you know, that don't want it because they think that there'll have to be more stewards or more this. Because obviously there was stewards that were just designated in our end. There was about 5, you know, there's about 1,000, 2,000 people. So 5 to 2,000 is not a lot, really, in my opinion, that clubs can complain about. But, you know, like we're going now, our next big London away is Reading, and they're not doing it. And I know it won't be 40,000, so, you know, it won't be that kind of thing. But when you see scenes like Alessia running towards that end on the final whistle, and that's what I said, Rich, it will come true. We will get that kind of thing. Where do you think we are in terms of having it permanently in the WSL away ends? Because Emma Hayes has had to support to it because she says she saw it and she says she wants it. You know, Lucy Parker, these big names, Millie Bright coming out in support of it. Harry saying the way and made the match. What an atmosphere. You're an old school women's football fan, Rich. Come on, let us know.
I've got no issue with it if there's a demand for it. I think you're probably in the position now where in the big games, like in the big stadiums where it's busy, i.e. Saturday, I think that now, I think if you've got games at the Emirates, games at Etihad, Old Trafford, wherever, have an away end. Why not? Because it's going to be busy and there's probably going to be enough travelling fans because it's a big game to make it worthwhile. I think in some games still it's probably not worthwhile in terms of obviously the clubs will have to look at the cost, like you said, in terms of stewarding and opening up other stands and things like that. Because if you've got, you know, you'd take Reading versus Liverpool or something this week, you know, at the Majewski, it's a midweek evening game. How many away fans are you realistically going to have in a big stadium? They can probably just, you know, by default have their own away end anyway and go and pocket themselves in their own little part of the ground, however many do go. So I think if there's a demand for it, if a game is going to be busy enough, um, then yeah, have it. I can understand, you know, it sounds strange, but clubs look after themselves and they probably don't want to give away teams or anything any more of an advantage. So I'm not surprised some clubs are being a bit difficult about it. It was good that Arsenal did it because it was good and it worked and there was a demand for it. You know, it was a busy away end and, you know, similar with obviously the Manchester derby, you know, at the Etihad and at Old Trafford, it'll be busy. It'll demand, you know, there'll be enough fans. It's a local game. So I've got no issue with it if there's demand for it. I think at the minute we're probably still at a point where I don't think it should be absolutely across the board in all 6 games every week because I just don't think it's worthwhile in some of them. I hope we get to a point where it absolutely is, but realistically at the minute it's still not in terms of some of the attendances. But if a game comes along and, you know, ticket sales show that it's strong and it's going to look busy and there's plenty of away fans that want to go, absolutely have it. So for me at the minute, I would do it on a sort of week by week on demand basis, but I'm definitely not against them if there's enough fans that want to do it.
I just want to touch on something that Mark Skinner said, actually. And he said, when Man United come, there's always a demand. There's always a demand, whether it's Reading, whether it's Arsenal, whether it's City. And I think, Etano, just your views, we had to go to Ian Wright to sort of force that issue along. I know Arsenal have their story, Man United have their story, but, you know, at the end of the day, fans had to jump on Twitter to sort of force it to be possible. And then within a couple of hours, it was up. So it's not like they couldn't be. And I think even with Man City, there was this resistance, like what Rich says, you know, they're not going to do it to benefit the growth of the game, kind of, are they? They're going to do it to benefit themselves. And when Man United come, most teams aren't going to want to do it. I mean, I can talk back to the Leicester game. I don't know if you saw on socials, but, you know, you speak to us, we speak to each other. Originally, we get a block. Next minute, we don't. People come and want to buy tickets on the day. They can't sit with United. It's all these things that a club like Leicester really could just, even when they do open one stand, just give, you know, 1,000 seats. No one's asking for it. to be this and that, but when you have to then move your seats because someone comes into the seat and says, "This is my ticket," well, Rich, I get what Rich is saying about you can make your own away end, but then when it's the whole stage, the whole stand's full, you can't really because, like you say, someone wants to sit in that set seat. All these kind of craziness. What do you think? Obviously, you said about it being, clubs benefiting themselves, but do you think now Man United they've shown with that game, bomb, give them away and everywhere they go?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
like
obviously. I don't,
yeah,
is that
let's
for
go
me?
on, go on, go on, go on, go on.
No, I think yeah, for Man United, if you're going to take fans, then yeah, again, I understand why clubs aren't doing it because they don't want to give you any apparent advantage. But look, if Man United are going to take enough fans to every away game, then do it. It's not a problem for me. I think clubs will start to embrace it more. But like you say, if people put the pressure on and people speak up, and obviously players now speaking up, then yeah, I don't see any issue with it.
Atanu, though, like he's just said, they don't want to give us it now. They don't want to, is it? God.
Like I think for some games it's very important, like for the Arsenal game, because I think somewhere or the other seeing the fans get so excited after that second goal, maybe that inspired them to go for the third one. Of course it's just speculation because I would want to associate it with the sentiment of a fan, but I still feel that having, like, for the Leicester game, you said that some Leicester fans came into your stand or you guys were scattered away. So I think at the end of the day, it's important to show your support, and as long as it's together, I think there's more vocal, and it's more audible to someone. Like I'm sitting at home, and if for the Leicester game, I could feel that it was a big stadium, and you guys were all scattered away, so we could not hear that. Abami Ami chants that we usually do. But in the case of the Arsenal game, it was quite audible and it was quite good. So, with regards to that, I feel that yes, away ends are the next big thing that WSL and women's football in general should implement at a larger scale. But it's still at the same time, it's from game to game basis, like Rich said.
Vicky, home fans should be louder. They had a 30,000 fan advantage. Yep, definitely. Hi, John. And hi, NS Sport. Will we consider doing it? Yeah, like this can be it. Put your questions in. Like we're talking about Arsenal currently. We're going to move on though. We talked a bit about away ends, but put your questions in. Let us know. Like eventually, yeah, we'll do a call in. But if you want anything, you want to speak about anything, let's get it going. I mean, even we could speak about Chelsea. Is that it now? Rich, what do you think? Is that it? Is Chelsea won it? Is it wrapped up?
No, I don't think it's wrapped up. I think it's obviously tight at the top. Everyone's pretty even. So, people, Chelsea are probably still the favourites, of course, in terms of the depth that they've got. But at the end of the day, you look at the table, and I don't think anyone's out of it. Man United are there on merit. They've won as many points as anyone else. They've looked good. They've only lost one game, which was obviously one of the toughest games you'll have this season. Arsenal still look good despite that one defeat. Chelsea have, obviously won every game since the first game, and Man City are working their way back in there. I think they're only 3 points off the top now, so we might have a four-way race. Yeah, if you're having a bet, you'd probably say Chelsea in terms of they've done it the last couple of years. They've probably got the best squad, but things happen. They've lost Pernille Harder now for what sounds like quite a long time. She's obviously a major player for them. Arsenal have lost Beth Mead. She's a major player for them. So, things like that happen, and that's part of football, and you lose key players from time to time, and that's what makes it unpredictable. So, I don't think I'm ruling any of the four teams out of it at the minute because you can't. They're all up there on merit, and we don't know what's going to happen.
Just this comment saying Arsenal haven't played Chelsea or City yet. Obviously, we're the first big team you could say that they've come against, and I wasn't convinced fully on Arsenal. I think we played really well, and I've seen a lot of people, well, Rich's mates, journalists, sort of downplay Man United and sort of say it was more Arsenal that played rubbish rather than Man United played good. But I think no, it was us that played well as maybe them playing rubbish. NS Sports saying we haven't won the league yet, it's November, and I agree, but for me, I also heard someone say when Chelsea do get that grip, it is very hard, and they've still not fully clicked into gear. So, Tanya, just suppose going off those points, what do you think about our performance? I think it was just as good. I mean, Rob, Ron, just Joe wanting to say strong performance. Hannah, that's one, and we're going to go on to the Martin because there are players that have been talked about not being aggressive enough, and I feel like Beth Mead got an injury, now everyone's blaming her, but for me, that was the best performance I've seen from Hannah, and it was that strong, aggressive, like kind of physical player that we needed. Vicky, loved Hannah's performance, strong defensively and offensively. Just talk to us about some of the, I suppose, lower key players that maybe haven't got shouted out at Tony.
Yeah, Hannah Blundell is definitely one of them. I think she performed really well, and the sticks that she's getting for that Beth Mead challenge, I think it's wrong because people are accusing her that she went into the challenge with the idea in her mind that she'll injure her. That is never the case. No, but no player would want to injure another player. So I think with that regard, I would want to say that we need to tone it down, and and by we I mean that Arsenal fans who are coming into the mentions of players or the club and saying that. So I think at the banter is fine, but accusing someone of injuring someone else, that's a step way too ahead of the limit. And I think Katie Zellem as well. Overall, I think over this season, there's been this thing that we've not had that midfield cohesion much. We could see that we do not control games as good as we used to do last season, but this season I think it was all about getting accustomed to the absence of Jackie Cronin after her transfer to PSG, and well, slowly and steadily we are getting into the groove. And KDLM, I think yes, there were instances where she did not perform well, but what she lacks in those moments, she makes up for it during set pieces. And if it wasn't for her two pinpoint crosses or corner, we wouldn't have been the way the three goals. Two of those goals are down to Katie Zelem's set pieces. Ona, I think, did well. Of course, with Ona, it's about having overlapping and underlapping runs with her winger. But Nikita Paris likes to cut in, so there's this big hole that is created on the right side. So I think when Lucia plays with Ona on the right side, I'm not saying don't play Nikita Paris. I'm just saying that if Lucia plays with Ona Bhatia, we see more of Ona Bhatia in an advanced role. But overall, I think Ona's had that benchmark this season where uh, e- every other game she increases that benchmark to another level. Maya Letessier, amazing. Yes, that one goal, I think she was at fault for the deflection. I think the first goal, but yeah, I think overall we were able to keep much of Arsenal at bay. Stina Blackstone has had a very poor game, so yeah, I
Say
think
it again.
Maya
Say
Letessier
it
as well.
again. Yeah. No, I just want to touch back, and I just want to say, John as well, agreed with you, and I've seen a lot of props for Hannah. I think people need to calm down about this kind of assault and all this rubbishness. I know they're upset, but just keep my players' mouth out of it. Keep my players' names out of it because it was just unfortunate, and we wish her well, obviously, Beth and everyone that's going through that injury. But just coming back because it's a name that you mentioned as part of that, and I think Chelsea shouldn't play very well, and she has mentioned a lot. And I'm going to come to Rich on this because he interviewed Mark. He's been in a Mark press conference. He's obviously interviewed Martin about the sort of setup and why players play, etc. So Zellum, the way, like you said, she did a lot better though for me in terms of holding the ball up. But I think Chelsea, we saw why people say that she shouldn't play. If you get what I mean, not that she shouldn't play, but the not as physical. not be able to hold up the ball, pressure too much, ease. And so that's where I did think we would lose. I thought it's a big pitch because I was worried about that. I thought that Arsenal would be a lot quicker, a lot stronger and all that kind of stuff. But maybe the big pitch helped her because she was able to move a bit around. But there was a little part in the first half or second half, and there's 3 players around her, and she still managed to play it out. And I thought, wow, this is what we've been screaming out for. This is what sort of I'd say that Jackie does, press resistant. Obviously, Rich, I want to come to you. We moved the ball quicker. Like I said, I think that helped. You've interviewed Mark, Martin. You know what fans think. I've just sort of said that to you there. The set piece for Zellum, yeah, is great. No one's denying it's a weapon, and it's a weapon that we can use against any team. And obviously, it's paid off a lot against Arsenal. But I suppose when you did see that Chelsea game or whatever you saw of Chelsea, and then you saw her playing a lot better, and obviously you've interviewed Martin about the way, what fans think and what he thinks and all that kind of stuff. Sort of, what did you think of Zellum? What do you think when I suppose both of them put all their eggs in her basket? Go on.
I thought she was very good on Saturday. I agree. I agree with the wider point that sometimes in bigger games she struggles in terms of her technical ability. I think if she can keep up what she did against Arsenal in big games, then you've kind of got the final piece of the jigsaw with her because in the sort of smaller games she can control it. She's obviously got the set piece delivery, which we saw obviously on Saturday. And if she can keep doing that, she's been around the England squad as well, and I know people have debated that, but obviously I find it hard to criticise anything Serena does at the moment, given the impact she's had in the last year. So if Serena thinks there's a place for her in the squad, then it shows she's doing something right. Look, I say it all the time, and Martin said it in the interview, you buy players, you keep players, you use players that fit your style of play and fit how you want to play. So there's obviously a reason that Katie fits into the way Mark and Martin want to play football, same as Hayley Ladd, same as Ella Toon, same as Leah Galton, same as Alessia Russo, etc., etc. They wouldn't be there, they wouldn't be playing if they weren't. I know everyone obviously wants Bo Risa, etc., but I don't think Zellum's doing a lot wrong, really. I really don't. I think she's got the most assists in the league, and I know obviously there's a chunk of that from set pieces, but it's still a skill to be as good from them consistently as she is, because it's just a consistent threat. It was last season, whether it was direct corners or corners into the box or free kicks. And I think at the end of the day, look, if you're performing like she is and she's playing well, then she's got a spot in the team. And I think it works. I think Hayley Ladd now being in there sort of permanently, obviously last season, she was a little bit in and out, had a few injuries. She's such a good player. Like when Man United signed her, I said she'd be the best signing they made that summer. I think she still was. She controls things. She's calm, and she kind of lets Katie Zellum be slightly the more creative one, and then obviously Ella Toon as the really attacking one to go and get the goals. So I think there's a balance. I think there's a really nice balance in that midfield three. I still think Bo Risa has a part to play. She's very good. She's very technically gifted. I think it's clear from what Mark has said that there's things maybe defensively she's not doing that maybe the others are. Specifically what, I'm not sure, but to be fair, he's been quite open about it. I think she's doing well at the end of the day, and she's probably one of United's most influential players at the moment. She's in the England squad. Fair play to her, because probably a couple of years ago people wouldn't have maybe predicted that for someone like her. So I say while she's playing well, good on her.
Vicky's just said as well, shout out to Millie, made a mistake against Chelsea, scored against Arsenal, coming back from a serious injury. I mean, I just want to throw it out, guys, in the comments. Atanu, come to you, then I'll go to Rich. Before her injury, Millie, and I will go back onto the Zellum point, don't worry, and Risa, we'll get it. I can see them coming through now, talking about Vilda and Hayley and etc. But just one quick question before I go back to the midfield. Millie was in and around the England squad. Then she had that injury. Can you see Millie getting back into the England squad quick? Yes or no?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's my
Rich.
biased opinion.
Uh, Not at the minute, but possibly.
We'll come back to that, and I want to go back onto the. And listen, guys, get that in the comments as well. Vilda, Tanu, talk to me because Rich has said there people are talking about Vilda, this and that, and I'm going to put up this comment. And he says defensively she's not good enough for me. I don't know if that is the one. I don't know how much I not believe it, but I do believe it. But I do feel like he's sort of wasting her. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. That's what I feel like. I feel like she can play in games. I think there was times where I would play would be as a 10. There was times where Tooney, even though she's come into form, she's been on it in and out. You know, Leicester, I think she wasn't that great. West Ham, I didn't think she was that great. So it's games like that where she has actually been coming on a little tiny bits, but he's bringing her on 2 minutes, 5 minutes, this and that. And for me, I mean, here it is she more an 8 or a 10? And I feel like when Jackie was there, he was like, oh, Jackie, this, that, and the other, yeah? Oh, Jackie and Vilda can't play together. That's the line, yeah? Okay. But for me, when I then said, oh, Vilda in a 10, it was more of a, And then now we're seeing her we're seeing Tooney coming off and Vilda going in that 10. And that's where, if you're not great defensively, like he says, I would want to see her in that 10. And I think she's shown she can do it. This one, Vilda not getting inside, Ladzellam and Tooney. She's been unlucky. But like you say, not everyone can stay on form forever. And I feel like when Vilda does play, that's where we score goals from open play. Turner.
Well, I think V- Borisa, like what Vicky asked, I think she's more of an 8, and like from like usually I try to label a player as a 10 or an 8 or a 9, but nowadays I'm trying to shift away from that analogy because I think now it's all about roles and what responsibilities a player plays. But in terms of those numbers, I think she's more of an 8. And right now as well, once Clinton comes back into the squad and is available in the matchday squad, I think the like replacement for Ella Toon would be Grace Clinton, and I think Vilde Borisa. Why I don't want her as a 10 is because she is a good controller of the ball. I know that it's fine if you have Katie Selam and Vilde Borisa together because they both control the ball well lately, but I would want to see Vilde Borisa, do that press resistance which Jackie used to do, which Katie is doing these days, recycling the ball well, recovering the ball, intercepting, and all those things. But I don't know why she's not getting any game time. Maybe it's regarding what Mark said, but like her future might be dicey at United because she has also come out publicly. Even the Norwegian coach has told her that you might have to change your club, and she too would want to want more game time. Uh, it's all speculation why she isn't get from my side at least why she isn't getting any game time. Even against Arsenal, I felt that Zelim should be subbed off, but glad I was wrong because if it wasn't for Zelim, we wouldn't have scored those 2 goals. So it's all about in which games does Mark think that Wilde will play well. Because in that Durham game in the Conti Cup, I think she did really well. She also scored a goal, if I'm not wrong. So like we like the players, we love the players, so there's always this another connection to the player. Why isn't my favorite player playing? So presently with Vilde Borisa, that's my thing, but I'm trying to be as unbiased as I can. So I do hope that she gets game time, and I agree with what John Hume said in the comments that the midfield is stacked right now. All like even if there are hard workers basically. If you think that the talent isn't there, but hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So that's the case with this United side right now. That players are working hard. So hopefully we'll get to see Vilde Borisa in the upcoming games before the Christmas break. So I'm trying to be as optimistic as I can, but at the end of the day, it does hurt that a player of Wilde's capability isn't getting much game time.
I just want to put it back to Rich. Just, it's not about, I get where you're coming from, and I feel like people will use that thing, oh, she's your favourite player, that's why you're talking about her. But it's not just Vilda, it's Leon, it's Tukara, and I know, like, it's harder to change your defence than it is your midfield, your attack. But, even Rachel Williams, you could say, these are I know Grace has been out injured and stuff, but, even her, these are the players that you've brought in. Martin talked to you, Rich, Mark said it. But in all these attackers, our attack is done. He sort of says now he's going to focus on full-back and midfield or whatever he's going to focus on. But for me, a player like Leon and Vilda, let's just say, maybe even Rachel Williams, a lot of players need to play. A lot of players need to feel. You even talked about Lucia. She came on, but she made that mistake because she'd only been on like 2 minutes. And I get it. I feel like players should be switched on, ready to go straight away. But it is that kind of thing. I feel like if they only play League Cup and 2 minutes, they're not going to be up to scratch. And then when you do need, God forbid, for any reason, we're like, oh, well, she's playing like rubbish, What? Why? Because she not had the chance. What did Martin say about that kind of thing? I'm sure he thinks it's just fans' favourites, but it's not. It's there's a sentiment, there's a reason, logical behind it. Go on.
To be honest, in terms of the interview with Martin, we didn't actually speak about team selection a huge amount. We spoke a lot about recruitment, in terms of why and how they recruit.
So why have they recruited and not playing then?
I think there's a really interesting balance when you look at certain teams on what they do in terms of their squads. I think Man United are in a position right now where it's obviously going really well. You've got the same points as Chelsea and Arsenal. You're in the hunt for Champions League. You've just had a great result, obviously away at Arsenal, and what they're playing at the moment is working. So on the one hand, you've got that. There's not really a need to change it in terms of the starting lineup. You can still have the depth. You can still have the players like Lucia Garcia, Vilda Borisa, Leon, Martha Thomas, Rachel Williams, etc. They can come on and change games. But in terms of how you start a game, there's people in the comments always said, how's Vilda going to get in the team? Ella Toon's scoring, Katie Zell's playing well, Haley Ladd's playing well, and there's no real need to change that midfield. People say about Tunkara, obviously, she's come in, international centre back, was starting for France, but there's no reason to take out Millie Turner or Maya Letitia. They're both playing well. So it's a tough one because you take England, for example. I know international football is different, but, Serena didn't make any changes. She made the same starting 11 every game at the Euro. She used players off the bench, but what she did was she kept a way of keeping them happy, like she kept them feeling very valued. And Chelsea's a good example because I think what Man United need to get, as you remember, is I know everyone wants their favourite players to play and everyone has their own opinion. And Chelsea have got like one of the best squads in European football. They've got, you look at their bench and you go, like, how have they got some of these players sat on the bench? When you look at their attack and you've got Sam Kerr, Fran Kirby, Pernille Harder, Beth England. Beth England's a great striker. She's sat on the bench most weeks. They've got international players sat on their bench, and players they signed in the summer. Obviously JRK from Sweden, Sankovic from, great players, and they're sat on the bench. But you need that. You can't just have a good 11. And what Man United have to do at the end of the day, if they're going to be in a position to challenge, is they need to have those players on the bench, which they haven't in the past. Now they do to an extent, obviously nowhere near the level of Chelsea. But you need, because look, like I said, look at Arsenal with Beth Mead. She's out now for probably a year. They haven't really got a huge amount of depth. They haven't really got wingers. Obviously, they could potentially. I don't know what the loan situation is with Gio, but the one player gets out and you're struggling. If that happens to Man United, if Ella Toon got a serious injury, you've got a great player in Vilda Borisa who can go in there. If Leah Galton gets injured, you've got Lucia Garcia, you've got Adriana Leon. If a defender got a serious injury, you've got Tunkara. That's what you need at the end of the day. The trick of doing it is you've got to find a way of keeping them happy. You've got to find a way of keeping them involved. And Sometimes that is coming on as impact subs. Sometimes that is League Cup games. Obviously, you've got league games coming up, including, ironically, against obviously Sheffield United, where you might see Vildebo Risa and people like that. So there's a balance to it. I think right now, Man United are right to stick with what's working. I think if suddenly you make 2, 3 changes for the sake of putting people in, and suddenly results turn around, you can imagine the criticism that the manager's going to get. So at the moment, it's working, and I think to have good players on the bench to make an impact is what you need. If it's not working, that's what they did on Saturday. They brought players on, they turned the game around, and I just think United are in a good position right now. I think Vildebo Reis is a really good player. I really do, but at the end of the day, what you've got. This is what I always say to people who, every time the England squad comes out and people say, "Oh, why is so and so not in it?" I always say, "Well, who would you take out?" And it's the same with Man United at the minute. I look at the midfield three and I go, "Who do you take out to put Bo Risa in?" So the best case scenario is you've got a great international player who can come off the bench and impact games, which you didn't have before. So I think at the minute, whilst it's working, she's just going to have to work hard, do her best, and if an opportunity comes, which in football more often than not it does, that's when she's got to take it.
Yeah, so like I wanted to talk about what Nat said, that uh, like Rich has covered it mostly, but I wanted to say that I too do have this concern that if you aren't playing your squad players much, then when given the chance, when there's an actual opportunity coming in, when there's an injury problem, they might not be up to it to replicate what the starters did. But yeah, like Rich said, that who would you take out? So that's the issue. For that, I would say that I'll go back to the Chelsea game. We were losing 3-1, I think. Yeah, we were losing 3-1. We were down. We were trailing by 2 goals. So towards the 87th minute, he brought on Adriana Leon, and what her role was, or what she did on the pitch, was that she was towards the corner, to corner side, and just what we do when we are winning, right? Time wasting and everything. So I didn't understand why he brought her on in the 87th minute, because we're already trailing by 2 goals. I know that I'm not an expert. This is just a concern as a fan, that in the 87th minute, when there is no when we don't even know how much additional time will be given, in the 87th minute she's coming on. What do you expect? Like, can she help us in scoring 2 goals? Of course, like I said, I'm not an expert, but it's just concerning that why not bring her on a little bit earlier, because she has that like against Brighton, I think she was brought on around the 60th or 65th minute, and she did score a goal. In those circumstances we were winning. In the circumstances against Chelsea, we were trailing. So maybe if Leon had come in a little bit earlier, when he subbed off Russo, when Mark subbed off Russo, if Russo, like Russo would have come on off and Leon would have come on, maybe things would have been different. I know it's just like I'm saying speculation and everything, but yeah, it's just my concern that maybe players won't be up to it when given the chance. If there is a real opportunity arises, when there's an injury record, injury crisis, or something like that, players are unavailable, suspensions.
Yeah, and that's it. I don't think I'm necessarily saying, oh, start Vilda, or start Leon, or start this, or start that. I'm just saying, like you say, when you need them and they haven't got that many minutes, they're not used to it. What Vilda's out here saying, I don't want to leave, but I might have to leave. And he can say, oh, everyone wants to stay, everything's perfect. But in reality, she's obviously, like what Rich, you said, make everyone feel happy. And obviously, if you don't come out and say I might have to leave if you feel happy, yeah, he's obviously saying to her, you're gonna play," and she's like, "Well, what is it?" But like, you don't see anyone coming out of Chelsea and saying that. And I know it's built on longer term things, and they've been doing it. They're winning. They've got more games to play because they're in Champions League as well. But keeping everyone happy. I wonder how happy Leon is, because she's obviously been brought in. And like you say, coming on at the 87th minute when you're losing, it's strange. And there were strange subs that day. I think a lot of people have said, even sort of his biggest fans have said they were strange. We were losing, and He's bringing on Stanley over Vilda, things like that. It's just, I don't know. It is strange. I think a lot of it is to do with he doesn't. I know he says that he does, but I think a lot of it is to do with he doesn't trust some players, or I think Vicky even said it, like some potentially just doesn't fit. She doesn't fit in at all, and that's what we're going to have to just sort of accept. He wasn't her player, but then I find it even stranger that Leon, like what Harry's saying, playing so well, it doesn't make sense because she is his player, and then he brings her on for 2 minutes. It just, I don't know. These are the strange things that I suppose no one's ever going to be fully. No one's saying, "Oh, we're not fully behind Mark," but these things happen, and he doesn't explain it. Then people are questioning him, and especially when you lose and then you do it, and they're questioning him. Obviously, I think Lucia was the right substitution. Thomas was the right substitution. I do like Thomas on the wing. He's obviously not playing. Leon, I think it's because she was in Brazil. Why she didn't know, people were upset that she wasn't on the bench for Arsenal, but that made sense. Even Russo coming off when she did against Chelsea, it made sense. But it's the other things that don't make sense that I suppose even when we're winning, we're still going to talk about it. When we won at Leicester, Vicky's saying, and they were warming up, they were watching, and it's thinking we're only winning 1-0. Just do, make a change. And I think that I see Jake say he is slow to do that. We need to see John Davenport saying he's slow to make those changes. I mean, you know him better than us, Rich. You spoke to Martin. Martin, they say things like pressure is a privilege and all this. But this is Man United, and I know we're going to go on to different things to do with Man United, but I do think that, I don't know, I'm not saying, he's not a Man United manager, but you talk about Serena. Serena is someone, like you say, makes everyone feel happy. Potentially, not everyone feels happy at Man United because they're not playing, but yet, like you said, she never changed her lineup and everyone felt happy. I mean, what do you think? Do you think Mark is a top Man United? Obviously, he's a Man United coach, but Ollie was the Man United coach. Moyes was the Man United coach. For me, Man United coach. Everyone can be a Man United coach. Under the last owners that we had. What do you think about him? Because we have had our talks, but I want you to say it now.
I think there's potential there for Man United to be a very good team under Mark and Martin. I do like them both as coaches and managers. They've got their faults, of course they have, like anybody, and they're not perfect. No coach is perfect, but like I said, it comes back to that there's just not a reason really to change things at the moment. I think as well, like it's easy to say 1-0 up, make changes, but it can actually disrupt things as well. And yeah, like I've said this to you before, and that, like, I know it sounds strange as a journalist because obviously we get paid to have our opinion and things like that, but we have such, a time we said it, none of us are experts. We have such little information, and it's been interesting for me, and I think my view on it's probably changed in terms of how I critique managers now, having worked for a football club, because obviously working at Chef, I'm in it. I'm in the pre-match meetings. I'm in the post-match meetings. I'm sat behind the dugout. I know every detail that goes into every decision, and actually, I do, like, sometimes I'll speak to Redders after a game and go, why did you bring her on at that point, or why did you not bring her on? And then he explains it, and you sort of see the logic behind it, and it's things like that. People say, managers have favourites and things like that. Managers want to win. Like Mark Skinner knows he's got to win. He knows he's at a club. If he's not winning, if he's not in Champions League, you guys are going to be on his back. So I don't think he's looking at his team sheet and thinking, who do I bring on that I like or don't like? He's going to be looking at what do I do that's going to win this game. And at the end of the day, you've won, every game bar one. And like I said, the one was a game that maybe still at this point Man United are not expected to win. And it sounds brutal, but the two games where he's made those changes, where the sort of not backup players because they're very good players, but the squad players have had games you haven't won. You didn't beat Durham, didn't beat Aston Villa, probably two games that you should have won with some of those players in the team. So, it's on those players as well when they come in. And it doesn't mean, obviously, individuals can't play well. Of course they can. But it's on those players when they come in to take those opportunities. And potentially some of them didn't. I think as well, there's also, we talked about this a lot, Mark's way of playing and Mark's philosophy is quite specific. And new signings, it's the same at any club. It's the same at Sheffield United. New signings take a little bit of time to get used to that. You saw it last year with players like Leah Galton, maybe didn't quite click into Mark's way of playing straight away. Now they have, and you're seeing the results because to the back end of last season and the start of this, Leah Galton's having really good time. She's scoring goals, she's getting assists. This time next year, that might be Adriana Leon, might be Lucia Garcia, might be Tonkara at the back. Obviously, the players that are kind of in there at the moment, bar Maya, are the ones that he's worked with for over a year and that probably know now his style of play and are the ones that maybe him and Martin feel more confident that are going to get the results. And then they've got good players on the bench if they need to come on. So I get it. It's just that whole thing of fans want everything now, and obviously the reality is the whole thing takes a little bit longer, and you probably meet somewhere in the middle. So right now, I find it too hard to be critical. There's definitely things to work on. They're not perfect, but I think for what they've got and where they are, I think they're in a pretty good position.
Yeah, listen, and no one can tell me. Martin talks about I'm always happy with them. I'm Martin. What did he say in his interview? And I remember it. And someone's actually criticised you, Rich, over it. PR. And listen, I'm not saying it's not PR because I know Rich, and it's not PR. You wanted to do it. Martin wanted to do it. If anything, the club probably would want to stop it if it's PR. But Rich did ask the questions, but he said something like, "No one wants to win more than him. He's ambitious," and I feel like you're ambitious, but no one would love that win more than me. Yeah, so he can sit there and say this and that, but I love that win, and a lot of people are saying things over. Let me just pull them up. No coach is perfect, but he doesn't trust. And I do agree, and he does have his favourites. Someone here saying he has his favourites, and I'm worried. And I do think it is that, but I think it's more a case of he plays the players that fit in his system, and I feel like the ones that we see as favourites are the ones that he fits in the system. But the ones that we see as not favourites, maybe they don't fit in it, and maybe you're going to see a change in the summer, in the January. But I just want to then bring it to something that we know that's going to happen. And we know it's not going to happen quick. But the Glazers, finally, they're looking like they're going out, and they finally brought. And I will come back to the comments. Don't worry. They finally brought. Look at this. It was Martin's players and all this. 9 out of 11 were Casey players. He takes a long time to blood him. We'll go on to the other comments, but I feel like the Glazers are part of that reason. When you say like little things behind the scenes and we don't see it all, Rich, but I mean, Polly's now come in and she said she did an interview with the Telegraph, and I don't know if you've read it, Attorney, but she said something along the lines of, "Oh, we have to be patient, and the wages are rising." So for me, it sounded like she was saying, don't expect your favourites to be signing because player demands wages are rising quicker than the revenue that's coming in. So it sounded like she was saying, we're not putting money in. One, we won't be sort of splashing the cash and signing your star girl players, and that's fine. But there's players that potentially we could sign, and I feel like maybe we're missing out on them. But that's by the by. But I just feel like what she said, it just didn't sit right with me. And now obviously we're seeing new owners will be coming in, hopefully. For me, someone like Sir Jim, who recently has talked about he's going to put that money in, he's interested in buying it now. And I feel like someone like him over maybe a Dubai kind of thing would be better, because I feel like, I think that even when Chelsea, they had the thing, and there was someone about the Jaguars or something, and they don't like women's football, they voted against abortion. All these things are important. But someone like Jim, who actually came, sat down, did an interview, said he wants to invest in all aspects of the club when he was talking about Chelsea. That is important for me. So I know we're going on talking about Glazers, but what do you think of Polly Etano? We will come back to all the pathway and the if Martin stuff, but what do you think of Polly and what her comments, like I've just said? And then what do you think about the Glazers leaving and then potentially who comes in? Because it is really important for Man United women. I think the first team, men's team, always they're going to have invest. We know that. That's not even doubt. We know that they need to put money into the training. We know that they need to do this. But the women's stadium need a stadium too. You know, it's not just the men's stadium. What do you think about new owners, and is it Jim or what do you think? Do you want someone else? Just talk to us, Tanu.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I think Polly Bancroft's interview, I didn't really catch up into it. I just came through it. Yes, there were some quotes that were a bit controversial in the case that we might not like it. Controversial in that sense, but I think overall, it's like United took a lot of time to appoint Polly Bancroft. Nat and I have obviously talked about it that the search started back in November end or December first week. So it took around 7-8 months to get to Polly Bancroft. There were a lot of other names. We saw Stefano Bragan as well, who's the Juventus head of women's football, was in talks. So there were a lot of people. So if United have made this decision, but I think it's a good one, and I'm hopeful of it. I wouldn't pay much attention to what she's saying because action speaks louder than words. So I would want to see what Polly Bancroft has to offer in the January window off the pitch, not even in the transfer windows, but off the pitch as well. How the streamlined way of introducing academy players into the first team, because there's this gap, like we send people on dual registrations. We need to ensure that some of these players get into the first team, and I'm not saying start, but there has to be a proper process. Maybe introduce another team, because the gap between under 16s and under 21s is a lot. So maybe introduce an under 19 team, and I know that United can't do that alone. There has to be an agreement with the FA as well, but somebody needs to start the dialogue. So maybe Polly Bancroft plays a big role in that. Uh, Transfer window, of course, and contract renewals first and foremost. That has to be the main thing. So yes, there were some things that Polly Bancroft said that we might not agree with, but I think she has to walk the walk and talk the talk, and I think she'll do that pretty well, because it's just the starting one. I think it's just been a month till now, so the real work has to be done in the winter window and the upcoming months. And Mark Skinner's contract is also going to end, and I think there is an option. So the decision has to be made regarding that as well. So many players are going to get their contract ended, or or become free agents. So we need to keep an eye on that as well, on the academy players as well. So there are a lot of decisions that need to be taken, and I know Paulie must know that better than me. I'm just stating what was written in the LinkedIn job profile when United had posted it back in November last year. So I think Paulie knows what to do, and I think the transition from Glazers to the potential new owners will be better now that we have Paulie. If Paulie wasn't there, it would have been a chaos, because uh, Murto alone wouldn't have been able to do everything. It's good that he has delegated some of the stuff to Paulie. Some of the stuff Andy Boyle is doing. He's also in link with the women's team, if I'm not wrong. So Murto has given different tasks to everyone. So now that the Glazers will potentially sell the club and new owners will come in, it has to be an important task that the women's team aren't the afterthought, because every time we've seen that they're the afterthought. And I'm not saying that the club hasn't done anything. They have developed, but they should have had a plan in place back when we reformed the club in 20 we reformed the team in 2018. Why not the promotion was at an all-time high since the beginning? Why is it that we are only seeing it right now? So there are some concerns from the fans' side as well, which is okay sometimes, as long as it's well within the limits. But yes, new owners need to ensure that the women's teams are in the afterthought. Nobody should be the afterthought. Equally pay attention on everyone. And as the famous motto of United, all red, all equal. So hopefully they'll actually follow it this time rather than, just showing it as a gimmick.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I just want to come on to you, Rich. Martin did talk about Polly, did talk about ambition. Vicky said something here. The Glazers have just kept things ticking over rather than having genuine ambition. And Martin said to you he wouldn't be here if he didn't have ambition. So obviously now, if we're essentially talking about a new owner, they're going to have to show that. But obviously he said something to you, Martin, that, or he's been told something that shows that they are ambitious. And I mean, I just want to come to you. What do you think? Because Vicky said something, and I mean, it's key as well. Old Trafford, are we going to sell out? Are we going to break those records? Because that shows ambition, not just to the players that we want to stay, but the players that we want to bring in. We can't just have another 20,000. And I think you're even one who's key in it. You've set the attendance record for the championship at Sheffield. So, what is it then? When Martin says he won't be here without ambition, what is it that he must see or what? Because like you're saying, with our owners, we don't feel like it is. And obviously they're going now. So what do you think that he must see to say that it's ambitious?
I mean, I don't know specifically. I mean, obviously they will know a plan in terms of they probably have a lot of structured out over the next year, next 2 years, next 5 years, even next 10 years in terms of strategy and what the budget's going to look like year on year. I think United. I know obviously you always come back to what they said at the start, the 5 year plan, etc., etc. I think United probably underestimated that it might not be that easy, especially when you lose two or three of your sort of prized assets from that first season or two. But I think they are doing it sustainably. It's very hard to go and throw a whole lot of money at it straight away because there are certain caps and things like that in terms of what can come across from the men's and what has to come obviously through your own. Obviously, as Polly alluded to, the money from the FA and TV and things like that, which is getting better and better, obviously with Sky Sports and obviously Barclays coming in. But obviously compared to the men's game, it's a drop in the ocean. And if men's teams could just go and put 20 million into their women's teams, I'm sure they would. It's not as easy as that. So I don't think a club like Manchester United, from a PR point of view, can afford now to not take its women's team seriously. I don't think any big club can, and that's why now, in the last 5 years, you've seen Man United, you've seen Juventus, you've seen Real Madrid, and I think a couple of German clubs now are working their way up from the bottom, Dortmund and Leipzig. They're all doing it. They're all investing. Inter Milan have done it. Roma have done it. Napoli have done it. So because it's big now, it's massive, especially in this country now with obviously winning the European Championships. And if you're not taking your women's team seriously as a top club, it's going to backfire on you. So people said it with Chelsea in the summer, obviously when Todd Bowley took over. So is he going to be as interested as Abramovich? There's no reason not to be. You've got an absolute pride. Chelsea's a huge asset for that club in terms of the women's team because they're so successful. And if Man United becomes successful, they'll be a big asset for the club as a whole. So, I think any potential new owner of Man United, and obviously as a Man United fan myself on the men's side, I hope it's someone that wants to invest and wants to care about the club and that be throughout. They've no reason not to. If you come into a club like Man United and you say I'm not going to invest in the women's team, I think a lot of people would turn around and say, well, what's the justification for it? Because anybody that buys Man United, I've seen the fees quoted. You're talking billions and billions of pounds, and to finance your women's team, it's going to be 1% of that, if not 1%, to make it successful. So they've no reason not to. I mean, look, as a Man United fan, obviously myself, I think the Glazers going, it can only be a win-win situation because whoever buys it is going to be, a multi-billionaire. If it's Jim Ratcliffe, it's Jim Ratcliffe, obviously United fans. So, yeah, we'll see. But you're right. I think the Glazers, both on the men's side, have sort of, we know how they structured it, we know how they bought the club, and they're probably more bothered about the business side of it. Obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo came out and essentially said that last week. So yeah, I think United are ambitious in the women's game. I do. Like, I believe Martin when he says that. I know people will turn around and go, "Oh, it's PR, it's this, it's that." But I was in the room with him, and I've known him a long time. I know he's very straight talking. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and he's not one of those that. I don't think Martin does PR. He tells it as it is. And yeah, I think if he knows that something's going on behind the scenes that matches what he wants for that club going forward, then I believe him. But as Atanu said, actions speak louder than words, and we'll see where Man United are over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, because for me, I think a lot of it is going to be commercial. It's about bringing in commercial partners. I think we've seen Barcelona. You mentioned some of them, Barca. Real Madrid up in their budget, Juventus going to the latter rounds. This is where we should well and truly be. And here's one last one before we round it off. What are his ambitions? Does he want to be the head coach? Can you see him being a head coach of Man United? Him or Charlotte? That's where I think Vic said it before, but I think a lot of people have sort of messaged me similar, how they do really love Martin, how I think the players really love Martin a lot. I think Charlotte as well, with the youth players. Oh, Charlotte is loved. And I'm not saying, you should get the team just because you're loved, but I feel like that does play a part. And what do you think? Do you think this will be the last one, guys? So I just want to say thank you. But what do you think, Rich, in terms of Martin? Do you think he will be a head coach one day? And do you think that could be Man United?
I think potentially yes. I think a few years ago, I don't think he did. I think now he's probably at a point where maybe he does. It's hard to step straight into. I know people probably think it's easier because you know the club, you know the setup, you know the players, but it's a big change being a number one compared to a number two because Mark sets the tone. Mark sets the way of play. Mark sets the strategy. But Martin's the coach. That's the role. At the end of the day, Mark will say to Martin, "This is how I want to play. These are the players," and Martin will be the one that goes out on the training pitch and executes it. And that, in most clubs, is how it works. Sir Alex Ferguson did that for years and years. Barely took a training session. So it's a very different role. Like Mark's side of it is leading the whole thing. It's setting the philosophy. It's setting the recruitment. It's setting how do we want this team to look. And then your assistant coach tends to go out and is the one that will execute on the training pitch. So I think Martin's capable of being a number one. I think maybe if he does, you might see that. Like if Man United said next year we're not going to renew Mark's contract, I'm sure they'd speak to Martin about it. Whether he'd want to go straight in at Man United, I don't know. You might maybe see him step away and say, look, I'm going to step down and go and be a number one, maybe lower down at a lower WSL club or in the Championship. I don't know. I could see him being a number one day. But I know he enjoys being a number two because some people just enjoy being a coach. Some people just enjoy being out on the grass every day, coaching the sessions. And, you're probably surprised, but when you're a manager, probably a lot of your job is behind a desk, and it's planning the whole philosophy of the club out. And if you're someone that wants to be out on I'm not saying you can't do that as a manager. I'm sure Mark is out there and he'll be involved in training, but they're very different roles. So I think, I always remember speaking to Willie Kirk because it works the other way around. Obviously, when, he'd been a number one for so long, he went to United as a number two and it just wasn't for him. He realised it very early. It wasn't for him. It was such a different role. And he obviously stepped away and went back in as a number one at Everton. So, they are very different things. I think he will one day. He's still very young, but it's hard to go straight in at a club like Man United. If you've never been a number one before, you've never handled, all that on a daily basis. So I could see him potentially one day going down the route of being a number one elsewhere, but I don't think he's got any plans to leave Man United because he loves it there, and obviously it's a great club. So we'll see. But I think for now he's pretty happy where he is.
No worries. Listen, guys, we could carry on talking. I could carry on doing it for another hour. I just want to say I agree with this point. Top class, top class, top class. That's all I can say. Top class, the best in class. That's what Polly always said, the best in class. That's what we need. That's what we got. Let's go for it. That's all I've got to say. But Tanu, thank you, bro, for coming on. Shout out. Is there any last words you want to say or anything?
To everyone who can make it to the Old Trafford game, please buy the tickets, and we need to ensure that we sell out the stadium, and ensure that everybody comes.
Rich, anything? Any last words you want to say?
I'll see you at LSV in a few weeks.
Yeah, come down to United versus Sheffield. I hear it's going to be a big game. Well, no, it is going to be a big game, but a big crowd as well. Eh?
Can we have an away end?
Yeah, who's going to be in it? You?
Yeah, I don't think we'll. I don't think we'll be one of the teams that demands it. To be fair, but no, it'd be a good game. Be a good occasion for obviously us guys.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, guys. Thank you for everyone who watched. Put a like on it. Watch other videos. Go and watch some of the scenes, the limbs from the away end. Definitely, like how we all celebrated, how we all reacted, that kind of thing. Definitely, this is a channel for that. And we're going to be doing more content. But see you soon, guys. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Yes.